Hi, this is Tim Rivers with J6 Patriot News, and I'm speaking with recently released Brian Mock. Brian has been a January 6th prisoner for quite a while. He resided in the DC Gulag. He had experiences there that probably no human being should have, and he's going to tell us about them. Thank you for the interview today. We know you were in DC with all the guys who are still stuck there. We've heard the bad stories. What we'd like is real testimony. Can you tell us what it was really like inside the DC Gulag?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, thanks for giving this opportunity and all the opportunities across the board that you've given to everybody in here to get our story out. It's quite unbelievable. I would not believe half of what I have told people had I not been there to experience it myself. Now, a lot of people said a lot of different things in there. The only thing that I can speak to is what I have personally seen. I can assure you I'll never try to embellish anything because it doesn't need to. What happened in that jail is criminal. As far as I'm concerned, the DC jail is an ongoing criminal organization. I've seen guards deal drugs. I've seen guards set up fights. I have seen them act like a gang. When I first got there, there was a court order that all of the Jan 6ers were supposed to be in a certain spot. There's two different facilities there, as people may or may not know, that are connected via a catwalk. Most federal inmates go to the Central Treatment Facility. CDF, Central Detention, is for anybody that DC picks up. Well, when I first got there, I was supposed to be in a 14-day quarantine right next to the other Jan 6 detainees. They chose instead to put me in the Central Detention Facility, where I was the only white person in there. The guards proceeded to tell everyone that I was an extremist and a racist. And for our 2 hours that we were out, which still didn't make sense if we're in quarantine, they let about anywhere from 60 to 120 of us intermingle at any given time, where I witnessed fights, stabbings, the guards themselves taunting inmates, assaulting inmates. They threatened me. We had countless PREA violations and other complaints that I put through that were swept under the rug. And I spent 33 days there on a 14-day quarantine. They tried to put me into a different section, and I literally had to sit and have the first of my protest as my own sit-in to get someone that was of a high enough authority to speak with the warden to put me into the actual J6 pod C2B. That's what it took. That's the cliff notes of what it took just to get me inside the Fed pod before things progressed and got worse. And I spent 4 of the next 8 months in solitary confinement. As folks may know, I fired my court-appointed attorney and went pro se. The subsequent issues I went through are what everybody is dealing with there, is the violations of our constitutional rights to have access to our discovery. Not a single detainee has had access to all of their discovery. And any that's electronic, they're limited to for a 14-day period, which many times that is cut short and computers are taken away. That happens, and then you have to sit on a waiting list for months just to be able to view your discovery and try to figure out what the government has against you. I could speak ad nauseum to the actual conditions with that you've seen, like Brandon was showing, with cockroaches, vermin. There's sections of that jail that they won't even go, that they've just kind of just shut off because the rats are so plentiful through there. The guards have told us, we just don't even go there anymore. We've shut it and we've given it over to the rats. Water does come out of the sink black. You can go in and scrape into anywhere place that you need to get access to water just to survive. And that's black. There have been investigations which guards and higher officials have admitted to the U.S. Marshals who investigated that, in fact, they routinely turn off water for days at a time for punitive reasons. Now, that means you can't flush a toilet. That means you can't drink. You are literally left in a 6x10 cell in the United States of America, not having been convicted of any crime, and you are denied access to water. When I made an attempt at one point to get my discovery, I finally got a computer. They tried to take it away after 8 days. I made a demand to talk to a captain because it wasn't right. I also hadn't been given all my discovery to view. I was threatened, and then I was sprayed, so much so that it filled the entire unit, and 2 people passed out and were having difficulty breathing and had to be taken down to medical. I was thrown in the hole. They said that they had only spritzed me once and lied about the entire ordeal. I asked for a full investigation, including all of the cameras that were on, to show exactly what happened, because they claimed that I tried to incite a riot when, again, I was simply asking for my civil rights, to be able to see my videos, my evidence. I got sprayed and I was thrown in the hole. I spent 5 days on lockdown, unable to shower, with the heaviest OC spray on me. So literally, quite literally, I was burning for 5 days. It was quite a treat. And then they proceeded to lie about it. I was thrown in again for about 3 months there without a single disciplinary report against me, where I was literally shackled anytime I was taken out of the cell. We were supposed to be out for at least an hour a day for 5 days a week. That never happened the entire time I was in there. I never came out for 5 days in a row at any point of that cell. And even when they did, they would put you into a slightly larger cell by yourself that may have a TV, or what they call rec, which is another door where basically have a pull-up bar, and that's the extent of it. So yeah, according to international law, anything more than 14 days of solitary is considered torture, and I spent at least 90 days straight in a cell by myself, with the only human contact was when they would slide food through my door and talk to me a little bit. That was basically it, and that was dealing with the guards. So I've been assaulted there. I've been denied the most basic rights. I've watched people getting beaten by guards. There was a negligent homicide in there just before I showed up, where a guy was literally banging on a door for 6 hours because apparently he had tried to smuggle in some drugs, and there was a slow leak, and he knew what was happening, and he begged the guards for help, and they said he was lying, left him sit there. And even when he was found unresponsive by another inmate in the room, it took over an hour for the guards to get down there with someone in medical, and this guy was dead. They don't care. It's a terrible situation. It's something that those in DC, having grown up in this area, they know. It's known nationwide. The reputation of the DC jail is that it's one of the worst, and everybody turns a blind eye. My opinion is because it's a moneymaker for DC, and DC isn't very big, and anything that's a moneymaker that you got federal money getting pumped in there, they are going to stand behind, and people are treated in conditions that are completely unacceptable. There's absolutely no reason for it. Everything that you've heard from Brandon, everything you've heard from anyone in here, quite frankly, go read the Marshals reports about standing water and feces and all of this. There have been a couple of guys who've died recently of drug overdoses. The only way that the drugs are getting in there, we know it. We've seen it. Brandon videotaped it. We know for a fact, because we have heard the officers talking about it, that there are officers who smuggle drugs into that facility. They've talked about it, and there's ones that will cover up for them because it's just like a gang. And until there's a thorough investigation of some independent party into that, inmates are going to continue to die because of it.
Briefly, you mentioned, I want to touch on something because many J6 supporters are engaged in sending food to the inmates because of the diet that's available. Everything you said is so horrifying. I think the food is like, oh my God, who cares? If you have to do, the food's got to be the least of your problem. But tell me what you get to eat in there.
Yes, and I want to thank everybody who did send food. I know there's been a big push for that. That's one of the things people can do immediately that has a major impact. I can't tell you how thankful we are when we do get people that send that, as well as the Patriot Mail Project, people sending letters to us when we are stuck in solitary, to know that somebody cares and that there are strangers praying for you. It's pretty overwhelming and humbling. As far as the food goes, it's garbage. It's all high sugar, simple sugars, carbs, and starches. It's undercooked or overcooked, soggy when it shouldn't be. Half the time it's inedible, and there's really no excuse for it. They act like, hey, this is supposed to be nutritious for you. It's garbage. And I get it. It's jail. It's not supposed to be great, but it affects people's mental and physical health. I developed high cholesterol in there. I've never had high cholesterol in my life. Not once. There's people in there developing diabetes. The medical people told us for a fact, they said, well, we might put you on some pills while you're in here. Most people, it clears up when they leave here and get on a decent diet and just away from this food. The doctors in there know it's garbage. They all know it's garbage, but they keep feeding it to us because it's the cheapest possible thing they can find. And it's literally killing people. They're developing all kinds of health problems and heart problems. Like I said, diabetes, pre-diabetes, things that will affect people for the rest of their lives. So you have to, if you can afford it, go in and spend money on their commissary where you have tons of overpriced food, and you're essentially forced to live off of packaged meats like tuna, turkey logs, things like that, to try to get any sort of nutritional value. There's health shakes that everybody tries to go after. People are trying to be healthy. They're trying to work out the best they can, but it's virtually impossible in there. It goes one of two ways. People either gain weight significantly because they're eating garbage, or they just refuse to eat and they're losing weight massively. I was on the gain weight program, so now I'm out here going, okay, it's all vegetables and lean protein. I cannot tell you how great actual vegetables that are actually grown in the ground taste. They are absolutely phenomenal. Shrimp have never tasted sweeter. Steak is the most amazing thing. All right. It's been glorious since I've been out, but just to eat healthy is something I will never take for granted again.
I hear that, brother. Well, I want to encourage everybody who's listening to this to understand that Brian simply went to exercise his First Amendment right that day, to protest what he thought was something that had gone terribly wrong in American politics and our election system. And like so many others, he has been swallowed up in this attempt to railroad so many people simply for believing that we could have a better America, and that America first was the way we should have gone, and that our country may have been stolen from us. And so that could be you. It might be your school board meeting. It might be you're protesting against something happening in your community. It might be because you were afraid to get into a Tyvek suit to avoid the monkeypox. It probably really doesn't matter. If you disturb the panorama, they're going to do something about it. And so we have to fix our government. And that begins with intelligent voting and understanding who you're voting for. Nobody really understands how important it is to choose a judge. Oh, yeah, I vote for my representative and my senator, and I pay a lot of attention to that. But what about that county judge you put in charge? The time to understand that that was the wrong person is not when you're wearing jumpsuit orange. And so I encourage all of you as we approach this election season, not only to be vocal about what is going on in DC and to our January 6ers all across this country, to let those people that you did elect, or at least you believe you did, let them know what your feelings about this are, that this type of treatment of American citizens is not going to be tolerated in this country. And those that do that are criminals themselves. Brian, thank you so much for your interview today. We will talk some more about some of the other things that have been going on in DC and about January 6th. But I think it's very important for everybody to understand what the people that we have left behind in DC and Northern Neck and Rappahannock, this is what they're going through every single day. Lock yourself in a room for 1 hour. Don't go anywhere. Just sit in that room for 1 hour and then try and imagine doing it for 23 hours a day. This is Tim Rivers for J6 Patriot News. Don't forget, justice for J6. Thank you, Brian. God bless you.
Thanks, Tim.